Yes, how about you?
You did? You did? It should be in.
Got a second on that.
Because I don't trust his answer. I'm glad you vouched for it.
That's what they say.
That's better, is that good?
Exactly 6 o'clock, we call the meeting to order. First thing would be review the minutes, they're in your packets right behind the agenda. I hope you had a chance to look at them. Any corrections or deletions to them? Hearing none, Mr. Christopher.
Move to approve the minute.
Motion to approve the minutes, do I hear a second? Ms. Lily Johnson, approve, or give me a second. All in favor of approving the minutes, this is budget and finance, let it be known while I'm lifting your right hand. Looks like it's pretty well unanimous, approve the minutes, stand approved. First item of business is select officers. Floor is now open for nomination of chair. Need a nomination, guys. Ms. Johnson.
Make a motion to maybe leave it as they are.
Whatever the will of the body is.
I am currently secretary, and I cannot continue with that. So we probably need to take one at a time.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? I have a motion by Ms. Johnson to leave it like it is. Mr. Joel said he couldn't continue to serve as secretary. So that motion is not going to stand in that particular way, Ms. Johnson. If you want to rephrase it,
So.
withdraw your motion and rephrase it.
Yes. So I'll make a motion, we're doing the chair first, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I'll make Jerry Ford.
All right, Ms. Johnson is nominated Jerry Ford. Any other nominations? Yes, Mr. Jerry. All right. Any other? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? I'd entertain a motion that nominations cease and we vote on who's going to be the chairman. Gary Flaherty gives me a motion, who gives me a second?
Second.
Ms. Jones, raise your hand. So nominations have ceased. All that's going to vote for Jerry Ford, raise your right hand. All that's going to vote for Dwight Joel, raise your hand. All right. Dwight, you are the chairman. Would you come take the chair, please?
Thank you, Mr. Ford. I would like to thank you for all of your hard work the last couple of years chairing this committee. And that being said, I'd entertain a motion for vice chair.
I nominate Jerry Ford.
I second that nomination. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Hearing none, chair will say that we elected Mrs. Ford with no other nominations. Secretary, floor is open for nominations for secretary. Ms. Clark.
I'll nominate Ricky Jones.
Have a nomination of Commissioner Jones.
I'll second.
Have a second. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Mrs. Jones, are you good with that? Any other nominations? Hearing none? Have a motion,
Nomination cease, Ms. Jones, elected by acclamation.
have a motion to cease nominations and elect Ms. Jones by acclamation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And I think Ms. Johnson seconded that. Thank you. Okay, moving right along with our agenda tonight, we have, go over the county financial summary from the trustees report. We have, starting out with the 111 account, you can see all the current balances at the beginning of the fiscal year, and the debits and credits, or money coming in, money going out, and where our ending balance on those are. At this point right now, our ending balance is $13,747,243. I think, as we all know, there's a lot of things that come in. Most of our income has come in from property taxes. So that's one reason that balance is showing so high. And a lot of things that don't get paid till the end of the fiscal year, so there were a lot of encumbrances on those. In looking at that, does anybody have any question about any of those, or see anything that looks like an anomaly that they want to talk about?
One thing I'll point out there, if you look at Core Civic, they had almost $5 million sitting over there. So if you take that off their bottom line, and that's gonna put you pretty close to where we are now. That figure should read somewhere around 13 million or something. Up there on the front down at 99,113. See, they've got nearly 5 million sitting there pending. They never got it yet. And that changes you 18 million to about 13 million if they've got that money. So it's not a mistake, it's just they hadn't been collected at that point.
Okay, going over the total liabilities in each one of the various county funds. Your 101 County General Fund, we're at $3,831,582 and change. Urban Services Fund is sitting at 1.171. Which both of those are above the beginning year balance, but a bit. Solid Waste is down a little bit, but we had, Mayor may have helped me with that one. We had we know the tipping fees were up a little bit more than we've been paying, and we had that expense of that truck repair that reflected in those figures. So that's probably why it's looking a little bit.
Well, and also got the landfill coming out of it.
Okay.
So you got the
we gotta pay it out and then be reimbursed from the state, and that takes a little bit of time.
So that's likely to go back up and get that. Ambulance fund. Looking good, special purpose. What is special purpose?
That is your core civic.
Okay, that's what, okay. Drug fund is pass through. Schools are looking good. I don't see anything that just jumps out at me that is out of line or looks like an anomaly. Let's forward you anything in that first page on the
No,
overall accounts that stands out to you.
no, everything looks like it ought to right there.
Flip over, go through our 101 fund, you can look at the various categories in these funds. We're at 70% of budget on the property tax collection, so.
We should be 50, anything above 50 would be good.
Like several are coming in a little bit more than we anticipated. Business tax is up, and the last time, the last quarter, we thought it may be down just a little bit. Mixed drink tax is a little bit above what we had budgeted or anticipated.
Building committee charge too.
So, court fines are quite a bit up, but it's misleading percentage-wise, but it's only a couple $100. And, don't see any surprises there whatsoever. Anybody have any one of those that they want to talk about? The 101 general fund. Good with that? Move on.
Invested income's up considerably. It's 183%. Contracted prison board's up considerably.
Several of them are up considerably. Most of them can be explained by one-time purchases or just the time of year, what has to come out of it. Your tax revenue's up. Title, certificate of title on vehicles are down a little bit. Contractor prisoner board is up. So, ending on the 101 general fund revenues, we are at 55% collected of our budgeted amount. As long as we're on the upper side of the 50, we're good there. Go into expenditures in the 101 fund. There again, you're looking at roughly the 50% of budget. Everything is right at it or below it. A few things are just a few dollars above, but not anything that's mega bucks. Fire prevention and control, we're at 91% of budget. We paid the fire truck, and we had that increase on the salaries, so that's probably what's accounting for that. There probably won't be a lot more coming out of that in the rest of the budget year, so don't let that panic you, I guess. Coroners down. We have received reimbursement from Core Civic on the autopsies that were performed on, their people, and they're reimbursing us for that, so that's really helping with those costs. Animal shelter's about online. Mayor, was there anything in that category that you wanted to make note of or explain?
No, if you look at the other local health services tobacco grant, that looks a little bit high, but I believe there's a budget amendment in there tonight to move some funds over that they've gotten in the past and specifically set aside for that, so that'll offset that increase. And that's to buy 6 new benches to set around town and have the anti-smoking messages on them.
Everyone here? Move into your 111 urban services.
One thing you need to point out on that, if you look at the bottom on your total expenditures, you're 45.72%. That means that we're running ahead of schedule by a little over 5%.
It's a good shape to be in. More revenues coming in than budgeted and less expenses going out. It doesn't get much better than that. Just wish it was a lot more money than that.
I will throw one storm cloud in there. The Streetscape has just started getting billing for that, so look, that's gonna go up dramatically.
All right, 111 urban services, property tax is where it needs to be. We're 46.71 overall, and there again, that's where, does the Streetscapes get funneled through 111?
It's through 111, yes, sir. It's the 91,200. If you look under the expenditures, the little individual line items, it's the second one from the bottom.
I see it. That's just started on the end. I see no big anomalies on that either. 116 solid waste sanitation. 70% on the property taxes come in. Looks like the revenues are a little bit behind budgeted. Am I looking at that right?
Yes, sir. We take into account the 322,216 was the old landfill facilities reimbursement grant, since we're still in the stages of getting that project completed. And again, it's one of those where the reimbursement lags several months. And so as we move forward, that revenue should go up once we start getting that project. It's nearing completion now, and then hopefully we'll start getting more reimbursement from TDEC. They had a change over in some of their grant administrators, and that kind of put us behind a little bit.
And that's also reflected in the expenditures that we haven't paid out that much in it.
Yes, sir. So you're going to see a rise on both revenue and expenditure side.
That 58,400, is that where you repaired that truck?
Which
No,
line?
that's your insurance premiums. So basically that category is done for the year.
It's not out of line, I just wondered why it was running so high.
Right.
118 ambulance service.
I did find on solid waste, if you look at your total expenditure, over 26%.
That's because of that budgeted amount on landfill closure that it did. Ambulance service. Nothing there that looks right on.
Yeah. Big expenses.
CCA Core Civic, that's pass through. County drug fund.
Restricted.
Restricted funds. I think that's what we'll do with that. But it is a positive balance there. Highway fund, as usual, is in good shape. There again, their revenues are exceeding budget and their expenditures are quite a bit less than budget. I know we've got some budget amendments that will be pending on some capital outlay projects that will affect that next month. 51 debt service. Again, pretty much right on line with budget. Education debt service, a little bit above budget, and of course that hasn't all been paid out yet, so it tends to accumulate until the notes are due. When do most of those come in?
The principal on that's due in May, so
May.
that's where that comes out at.
I was thinking May, but I wasn't sure. Yes, it does. So that pretty much is where we're standing right now. I see nothing, like I say, any real anomalies or anything that looks out of line or out of order. Anything that you need to make us aware of, Mayor, on the budget?
No, most, like I said, most, they're running pretty good right now on the revenue side. There are some expenditures, like I said, landfill and streetscape that are really gonna affect the 111 and the 116, but those, both of those have some reimbursement from the state or federal government tied into them, so at the end of the year, it's not gonna be as big a hit as it will appear on paper right now, but other than that, I think everything's seems to be on a good pace right now.
How long does it usually take to get our money back from them, you know?
I believe on the streetscape, it's been running, I believe it's about 6 weeks for the streetscape.
16.
Right. And the landfill, it's really kind of weird.
They're being contrary.
We've had some issues on the landfill side. There was some changeover in staff and moving over to new people and just,
Been a lot of turnover at T-Dot and T-Dex, I think, for the new administration. Kind of throws them on the wrench.
a lot of retirements.
Anybody have any questions on trustee reports? We good? Mr. Flaherty?
We started receiving any sales tax from internet sales yet.
They don't break it out separately. Our sales tax collections for October, and correct me if I'm incorrect, was up about 10,000 over October of last year. So we're assuming that that was the impact of it. Have we gotten November's yet?
We have, that's what I handed you earlier.
Okay, I didn't.
I didn't know if you wanted to pass those out or not. It just shows the sales tax over the months.
Do you remember how much it was
You talking about online
for
tax?
November?
No, sir, sales tax in general.
Those are online taxes.
They don't separate that out.
That's what we're saying, they don't separate it, so we have to look at what we had last year versus what we had this year. And, for the same period to see how much.
It's running below 50%.
Well, keep in mind, you had Fred's go out of business, and so that will affect it there. So I think you're actually seeing the online sales tax. My thought is it's actually making up some of what you lost from Fred's, and then a little bit over that. So that's going to skew the numbers a little bit, I would think. But I did have a visit from Mike Harrison, who's the executive director of the Association of County Mayors, and he said some counties have actually seen a decrease in their sales tax collection. So he said it's kind of weird across the board. He said you'll have two counties that are similarly situated, one of them seeing a dramatic rise in sales tax collections, and the other one is actually seeing a decrease. So they're trying to figure out what's causing the disparities between the counties.
Mr. Chairman, when will we see anything about online gambling? Will we get any money to that? Any taxes?
Have you heard anything on that?
We've been receiving some things from fantasy football, but that's about the only online gambling I know of.
I mean, it's passed, ain't it? It's allowed in the state, it is.
I don't know whether any
They
of
were,
that comes.
they said, they thought it would be into this year before it would start, being able to do it. Just wondering.
Would that be included in sales tax, or would that come in as a separate revenue? Heard anything about it?
Most
I don't
everything
remember
everybody's
seeing
talking
anything.
about is the sales tax, not really talking about the gambling portion of it.
But he can vote on it.
Well, I mean, I know, like I say, our sales tax collections are up for October, November, December over the previous year. And we're just gonna have to get a few months under our belt to see how much this is gonna affect us. And with some businesses leaving the county, it's gonna make it harder to really judge what that is. We've asked them to be able to provide us those figures and break it down separately, but I doubt that's gonna happen.
And there was also some talk, and I don't know if the bill's been filed on it, I haven't kept up with the bill's been filed yet. But decreasing, I think right now it's $500,000 in sales in the state before they have to pay the sales tax, and there's been talk about decreasing that to $100,000.
I think that's one of the bills that's been filed, possibly.
And I think that'll put us more in line with some of the other states that have adopted the online sales tax.
Anything else on that? Let's move on our agenda. Board of Education, Board of Financial Report. Dr. Satterfield, you ready for that one?
Okay. I think I've got about 20 something copies, so I think I got 10 for all the commissioners, and maybe a few extra as well. Be sure to buy it. I don't know, I'd say most commissioners get a financial audit, annual audit. I think that from the comptroller. So it's a pretty good report. There's only, countywide, there's only one audit finding. I know the school district, we were free of any audit finding for the 9th year in a row. So I thought that was pretty important.
Pretty amazing.
At least we're going by state law. That's important. What you have before you is a financial summary, and we did that at the end of the year. We're supposed to do that quarterly, so we ran it on December. I tried to give it to you in the same format I gave to you in the last report. And the first page is highlighted in yellow, or just the main thing I want to get on. And then the second page is December of 2018, which was the same time of the year last year. So just having some type of fixed point in time, a reference point of comparing how we are now as we were to that point last year. So that's all it is. That's for them to study. If you will look at the first line, current property tax, I think what that comes into the end of February, I believe.
Yes.
Shows that we've collected our part of 70%. And from that time last year, if you look at that blue line, that was $1,008,667. So the current property tax is we're $10,900, well, about $11,000 short of where we were at this time last year. So if you look at the next yellow line, the local option sales tax, right now we've collected on our part $311,938. Last year at this time it was $294,960, and that's up $16,000, well, almost $17,000, $16,978. If you look at the BEP, that'll be the third line. Of course, that's kind of fixed in time. So far, we've collected 3.8 million. Last year, that's 3.7. That's a different, plus of 89,000. But if you look on the expenditure, and I didn't put a yellow line on that, the first expenditure line, 71,100 regular instructional program, that's where we have about 69 or 70 teachers. Most of our teachers are in that line item. And that $89,000 basically is that increase, that mandatory increase in teacher pay. So if you look at that 71,100 regular instruction, and you compare it to this time last year, that's a little that's $131,000 more it's cost us to run that line item. So actually, I look at is a deficit of $131,000. When you look at the total revenue compared to last year, that's the first, second, third, fourth yellow line. You look at the revenue. This year, the revenue we've collected to the end of December is $5,466,911.60. Last year at this time, it's $5,446,758, and we've collected $20,000 more in revenue than we had at this point in time last year. The other thing, Mr. Chairman, I would add is the importance of fund balance, and a good fund balance helps us with unforeseeable expenditures. We have not used any fund balance this year. We've used our budget. We may have to do some budget amendments and clean up at the end of the year, but we had to repair the elementary school roof. $21,000. We've already done that. The middle school and the elementary school is having some age on it. We've had some drain line issues. It's collapsed, that cast iron metal that just rust out. And we've had to repair some drain lines, cut the concrete floor. So far, we spent about $46,000 on that. Mr. Ford, you asked me the other day about lead water testing, and that's a good unfunded mandate that the state put in. And it's good for public health, I'm sure, but that was $3,500 that we didn't anticipate. We also, I think we talked with the education committee, we had to hire a new teacher because of the mandatory student-teacher ratio. A new teacher, a first-year beginning teacher with fixed charges and insurance, runs about $60,000. So it won't cost us $60,000 this year because it started in the 1st of December, but it'll be prorated over that time. And then thank you so much with the work of the education committee, work we did with giving us the go ahead and hire an architect and get some roofing bid cost prices in here. We hired Cope Architecture last Thursday night. We estimated that the cost would be about $50,000 for that, but I think we're gonna work that out at that point. So that's my report. Any questions?
How do you spell the architecture?
Cope COP. They've done the last work for us at the elementary school. I think they've also done some work for the county as well.
How long before they'll have the report back
Which report is that?
from the architect?
Okay, Mr. Jewell can help you a little bit on this too. I think your county commission, and there's some backtracking work we've done with the mayor and Chairman Jewell, but they worked with Tennessee Municipal Bond, and there was a timeline that they had to have a resolution in order to make the building timeline that we wanted. But we hit you the hard questions. I think your county commission meeting in April is like April the 26th, and our board meeting that month is April the 13th. So the stipulation with the architect that they would have plans, let it for bid, and would have a bid opening on or prior to April the 16th, where we can get those bids, those hard bids to the commission by your April meeting. Is that right, Mr. Jewell?
That's correct. That's my remembrance. That Mayor, I remember the April. We're trying to, we found out from the comptroller's office that we can let the bids without the funding mechanism being in place. And that way we have firm numbers to work with when we're trying to put the funding mechanism in place. So that's why we proceeded with the way that we did. That was worked out in the education. So I think we're on track as much as we can be. And we're trying to work back from having a contractor ready to start work when school is out in May. So having to work back from that day, trying to get these deadlines to line up with that is the reason for that. And we know they're probably not gonna be able to do it over the school break during the summer. They'll probably still be working on it in the fall, but they can do the lion's share of it at that time. That's what we're hoping for. So that's why those dates are so important. And I think it's proceeding about as well as we can proceed with it at this point.
But the architect told us at the board meeting last week that they would have no trouble meeting that deadline.
The thing with COPE is they have all the plans already for the school. They're not having to come in and redraw anything, measure anything. They have all that because they did the previous work at the school. So it kind of gives them a little leg up on the timeline. And it should lower their costs hopefully as well.
Thanks, sir. Oh, I'm sorry.
Are these bids going out nationwide, or are you doing it?
I'll answer that question the best I can. Cope Architecture in the past, they have a contact list of people that they work with. There's some magazines, online, things that they do, but they reach out to the general area of anybody who's interested in doing that work. We'll have a pre-bid meeting, and usually we have somewhere between 8 and 10 construction firms that will go through the school, look at the plans, look at the bid, and then they have about 2 weeks to submit a formal bid. So architectural firm builds those bid documents and gets that information out to them and recruits them for the pre-bid meeting.
Typically that is on a regional type basis because of the scope of it. You know, if it's less than $1 million project, hopefully, you know, they're not going to send it out.
But I may know you, yes, there are some roofing companies that work nationwide that have regional offices, and yes, they will be contacted. As a matter of fact, one of the bids that were floating around, that quote estimate that was floating around this summer, was one of those such companies. They work nationwide.
Did they give you any idea how long they thought it would take to finish the project?
When I talked to John, and some of y'all worked with John Cheney before, and told him what our goals were, what we were up against, and I said, well, we won't start right around graduation time, May the 22nd. And he said, we can do that. It's not no problem. We can make that happen for you. And I said, we won't be done by the time we open school, like on July the 28th, 29th. And we go, that ain't gonna happen. I said, what? He said, that's too big of a project. He said, now like Chairman Jewell said, we'll get the lion's share of it done. But they will not be off your campus by the time school starts, but they will not hold up the beginning of school. But yeah, I had an ambitious goal to be done by the start of school.
That's why I asked you that.
Any more?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, next on our agenda, we have a budget law ordinance that I guess it will be by ordinance or resolution.
It could be by resolution, that's correct on that.
You have that inside the packet here, budgeting under general law reference numbers from CTAS. And it basically deals with the statutory timeline of the timeline that various parts of the budget, the departments, school, things of that nature. Mayor, do you want to explain it a lot more for
Well, if you remember last year during the budget time, I told the commission about a request from the comptroller's office that we choose a budgeting statute because that was creating problems as to what the timeline for our budgeting process was. And one of the issues they were having is what law do we fall under, because we're metropolitan, but the metropolitan statutes don't say what you do. That's left up to your charter, and our charter is pretty vague on the thing. It just says that the mayor has to submit a budget 30 days before the end of the fiscal year. So they asked us to pick a statute. I talked to a gentleman at the comptroller's office, named Ron Queen. Mr. Beller spoke to him, and our consensus was we operate more like a county than a metropolitan government, excuse me, than a municipal government, and therefore we thought the county general law would be best for us, given that, you know, how we operate. And that would also put us in line with the schools, because the schools had adopted one of the provisions that is actually part of the county general law. So that would put us in line. We have the same timeline as the schools does. I did ask CTAS about this as well. Their attorney's opinion was that they thought we were under the general law already, because our charter mentions general law, but the comptroller's stance is, yeah, it says general law, but we don't know what exactly that means or which one you're talking about. So they asked us to choose one, and since the comptroller's office is who does our audits, I think it would be prudent of us to adopt a statute through resolution. And the county general statute, I think, as you said, it really lays out the timeline and then what would happen if you don't get it past the first. And I think it says there's a provision in there that if a county if a department doesn't have their budget approved twice, then the third time they come back, I think it goes directly to the county legislative body, not to the budget and finance. And so it really lays out the process that will be followed, really fills in those gaps that are not present in the charter. So this is basically, to me, the request from the state comptroller's office. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. If I'm incorrect, I hope Mr. Beller will correct me on that.
Clarifies largely what you're already doing to an extent, but, as Mayor said, that the comptroller's office really wanted us to put something together that's for their purposes, more for them than it is anybody else.
Pretty much what we've been doing, it just more or less spells out what it is.
Move to approve.
A second.
A motion to approve. Second. Motion by Ms. Carr, second by Mr. Ford. Any other discussion on this? Any questions about this? There again, folks, is one of these things that should have been done a long time ago that just never got done. We're just trying to clean up these loose ends. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Is unanimous. We'll have that on the agenda for you at this month's meeting. Next agenda item is get into our budget amendments. We've got a few. Start out at the 101 fund with general services. We have GNRC dues came in higher than estimated on the budget. They had a slight dues increase of $353. That's what that one is, and then that would be a fund balance draw of $353 going into dues and membership. Anybody have any questions about it? Do we need separate motions on all of these?
I'm gonna defer to the county attorney on that one.
I would do it under each category.
Each category.
Right.
Let's go ahead and do this and get it out of the way. Okay. Have a motion to accept, Ms. Johnson. Second by Ms. Jones. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that one is done. Next is a 118 EMS vehicle, $38,000. This is from their fund balance. It goes to medical service vehicles, the line item it goes into. This was approved by the Emergency Services Committee on 9/17 and 1/14. We sent it back from budget because there was still some questions about it. We have it before us tonight to approve this amount of money for them to buy a truck. Mr. Ferguson.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that for just a minute. I want to premise this by saying that I think the rescue department needs a vehicle to help pull things around. I think we tonight should approve in some shape, form, or fashion the approval of a vehicle. I'm going to say it on the front of it. In the emergency services meeting the other night, we talked about this and kicked it around about the size of the vehicle, what you could get, what you couldn't get. And so I went and worked on this project a little bit. I wanted to share some things with the committee as we look at this. So I went down there to Wilson County Motors and talked to them in the bid department. They have some people down there, that's all they do is work on these types of things. They got a big whiteboard down there. They got cities all over middle and east and west Tennessee. And I also talked to some people that are on the rescue department, and so I want to have some little discussion about it tonight. The vehicle that is in need is not necessarily the director's vehicle at the ambulance service. It is the vehicle that is needed in the rescue department. But as we've had these discussions, we've talked about taking one truck out of one and moving it to the other, which I think is a good idea in the county, moving vehicles around. But in the discussions the other night, there were some ideas about, hey, the 2500 is what a 3/4 ton truck is called. That maybe it would be a good idea to have something where the rescue department could pull it around. Now, Dwight, you and I had some discussions this afternoon about 2500. I want to get to in just a minute. But in the meeting in the emergency services, it was explained to us that the vehicle that was wanted could not come in a 2500 series, but it can. And this was explained to me down there at the bid place. You could get a 2500. Okay? There are certain things that come on the 2500 or the 3/4 ton truck that come standard, that if you go and get a 1500 truck, don't come standard. You have to pay more for it. Like a larger engine, or like a tow package, or certain other things. So the bid that I have here with me is the 1500 series truck that we actually have placed a bid on. And I found out some things that I was unaware of that I just wanted everybody to share with everybody. There are some things that are added to it that we might need to talk about. But the 2500 truck, if we took off some of the things that are in here as extras that are standing on this, your truck's gonna come out to be about the same price, whether you got a 3/4 ton or whether you got a 1/2 ton. Does that make sense so far? So, but to stop right there, we had some discussions this afternoon that you shed some light on some things saying, you know, maybe the 2500 might be not necessarily a good idea. So I wanted to kind of clear the air on that first. But you can do this 3/4 ton versus a 1/2 ton if you wanted to. If you just wanted to get a truck for the rescue department. But I want you to share with us now what you found out.
Well, I had looked at this quite a bit, the differences in the 1500, 2500, 3500. And typically, in years past, 1500, 2500 was basically the same truck, maybe a bigger transmission, bigger radiator, oil cooler, things of that nature, larger engine. The 2500s and the 2020 Silverados particularly is a much larger truck. It is not the same chassis, it is not the same, it is bigger, it's taller, it's wider, it's longer, it's bigger. It's in the thing with it, you don't have as tight a turning radius with the 2500 as you do the 1500. Yes, you have towing capacity. But what I was reading from Chevrolet was they're saying unless you're buying this truck to be a tow vehicle or where you're carrying heavy loads in this truck, that you're much better off having the 1500. Now that may be some sales thing from them. I can't, but that was the gist of this article, and it was from Car and Driver magazine doing a comparison of trucks. And it was titled basically, don't buy a 2500 unless you need it, kind of thing. So it got my attention was while I was reading it and then looking at the differences on the two websites, the Chevrolet website of the two vehicles. The cost is pretty much comparable, but that's that would be my concern, is that you'd be buying, unless you're gonna be using this vehicle to tow trailers a lot or carry heavy loads, it probably would be more serviceable for what they're using it for to get the other. That's all I would say.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that. Mr. Bailey, you wanna weigh in?
Sure. Did you ask him about the special services vehicle model 1500? Because on their state procurement office, it's not offered.
That's correct. But the thing the other night that was mentioned was that you could not get a truck with the type of truck that was wanted.
Right,
Now,
special services vehicle.
a special services vehicle, these are some of the add-on features that are on this 1500 that they told me are not typical of a vehicle of this model. There's a spray-in bed liner for $479.60. There's bright silver wheels for $308. There's a police pursuit package. Some people call it special services. They call it police pursuit package that you cannot get in a 2500. You can only get it in a 1500. Side steps, $660. Fog lamps, $347. There's three things here that you cannot get in the 2500 series. Bright silver wheels, which according to the bid department down there, is just for appearance only. You cannot get a police pursuit package in the 2500. You can't get fog lamps in the 2500. Now, they went on to say that a bed liner, you can get that in either one. Price would be the same. Side steps would be the same price in the 2500, whether you've got that or not. And they also said that all the Chevy decals were to be removed from the truck too. Okay. But the word that caught me the most was it says optional and not usually added on vehicles like this. The term that was used to me out of the bid department was this vehicle, and we didn't know where it was going. We would have a good idea of where undercover police officers were. My question is, if we're going to go with the 1500, 500, which I think there's some merit to that, do we need all these features that make a vehicle an undercover police pursuit vehicle, which is the terms they're using? That's not what I'm using, it's what they said to me. And additional features of almost $2,300. Now that I know this, I mean, you can shrug your shoulders, yeah, they got the money, let's do it. But then again, you know, this is money that, do we have to spend this kind of money? This is actually in a roundabout way taxpayer. Even though we're thinking about taking this money out of the emergency services fund, but all at the same time, you know, when that money's earned the way that they do it, because they can generate revenues, it still becomes a taxpayer issue, in my opinion. So, you know, question is, take the money out of the one-on-one fund and just buy a truck for them. And what do they need? Or do we take the money out of the, is it 118 fund, right? And then move things around? To me, it doesn't really matter one way or the other. But what does matter to me is what kind of vehicle are we going to be buying as we move forward with these? I think the ambulance service needs all these extras. According to the bid department, they've never seen one like this. It comes through from that particular service. So, I mean, my question would be, I mean, you might have good answers with all this. I'd like to hear it because they said, basically, we've never seen this before.
Never got a spray bed on there. I mean, all our other trucks we have now. That's just to protect the bed. Obviously, fog lights we take out and replace with emergency lights. That's why we ordered the fog lights. All the other stuff. I mean, it's
Bright silver wheels at $308. The bed liner, they said that they don't hardly ever put that in a rescue department truck, is what they said. I just went through and I said, well, okay, I mean, I don't know about these things. I said, I've not ordered a truck before. But this is what they were saying, is they do these things all statewide. And the vast majority, and I also said too, they had a big whiteboard, and I said, just by chance, what color are those trucks, just for the fun of it? And they said, well, they're just almost all of them are white. Not all of them, most of them. So,
not all of them.
He's trying to respond to it. They can respond.
We run emergency traffic regularly. I mean, I think the sheriff could say that the reason we would get this is because it's designed to run emergency traffic where your civilian models are not necessarily designed to run the type of calls that we run. So it's got a different suspension on it. It's got a different air breather. That's about the only things that make the special services vehicle a whole lot different from the civilian model, which is designed to run emergency traffic, which is what we do in that vehicle a lot of times. I mean, you know, once you get the bed liner, it's fine, but it's just keeps the
these were the things that they said that they mentioned that just don't typically show up. On the police pursuit package, which is what they call it, it talks
I
about.
think it's a separate model, there's a PPV model and
Yep,
there's a special
that's
service.
correct, that's correct. And they talked about how that you can turn off the lights, you can turn it off where the horn doesn't go off, or the dim the lights, or the bright lights don't come on, all that type of stuff. They just said they just typically don't see this.
We don't have that on that vehicle.
Yeah, it's listed on here, yeah. It's on there. So, I don't know, and also it says the package total would be $31,016. We're talking about appropriate $38,000, I don't know, maybe it's just a cushion in there.
There was for the lights and
You
the
got the
badging
lights
and
with
things
it.
like that. Mr. Beatty, did you, is that the truck they suggested to you when you went over and talked to them about it, or did you specifically ask for that package?
We went through that line by line, added up things that we felt were needed as a department.
Mr. Buckmaster,
Motion to approve is requested.
have a motion to approve? Do I have a second?
No.
Have a second? Further discussion?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Correct my memory. The vehicle that's going down is a 2500, correct?
Yes, sir.
And we're taking it down so that the rescue squad can have the heavier duty vehicle to tow the boat or do other things, correct?
That's correct.
So if we buy a 1500 today, a half ton, 5 years from now, if we want to pass that down, we won't be able to because it's not 2500. So why are we buying something that years down the road we can't pass down to somebody? Why not get that 2500 now?
There's a couple of reasons.
Mr. Baker?
We're gonna look at replacing one of the other vehicles through a grant, and we're probably gonna explore doing a 1 ton to replace it with. We discussed that, I think, in the last meeting, emergency services. And as a day-to-day driver, the size of the vehicle, being a 3/4 ton, is difficult to get in some of the places that we respond to, people's yards, driveways, parking lots. It's really big, so we were kind of looking to downsize a little bit, just to make it a little easier to navigate. Even, I don't care where you go, it's a 20-foot long vehicle, it's not easy to park in one of the places.
And I must say that I was all on board with the 2500, the 3/4 ton, so I looked at the differences. They're two physically different trucks. And I can see for what they're gonna be using it for now, where the 1500 would be preferable.
So would it be
Now, I
safe?
can see where the 2500 possibly in the future could have its advantages.
So would it be safe to say that this vehicle that you're getting now, at the current bid, would not be passed down later years because it wouldn't work for the rescue squad, the heavier duty vehicle towing a boat?
Well, not
It
tough.
would pull a boat without any problems.
Yeah.
We're looking at pulling a trailer with,
Equipment.
one of our big trailer with like a 4-wheeler and a Ranger or some other side-by-side vehicle inside of it that's pulling something heavy.
And I think the other thing, with 1500, you can tow with it, you're just not gonna wanna tow large loads for long distances. You know, it's not gonna hurt it running around the county pulling a boat or whatnot. If you were gonna pull it from here to Canada and back, you might want the bigger truck.
Well, I've seen the sheriff's department with a 1500 pulling a trailer with a truck on the back of it out yonder. So it don't hurt them to pull a truck on a flatbed truck, a trailer, then put a 1500 pulling it. So it ain't gonna kill it. It'll do it.
In defense of that, this package that is here, I will say this, that it does include a larger engine. Okay, it has a V8 instead of a V6, in terms of being able to pull,
Yeah.
probably would be able to pull, even though it's a 1500. Now that, in its defense, I'd say yes, but there are other aspects of this that raise a lot of eyebrows in the parts of, you know, you really need all this other stuff. I mean, it's,
Well, I think it's up to the department head to determine what's necessary.
well, I'll tell you a little bit about that too, because they said it's common for people, councilmen, for commissioners, they get calls every single day from all over the state questioning what's on here. They had one mayor that wanted to put some lights in one of the cars he had, and that they decided that they didn't want it. So when you say department heads, do they have authority to do this? Yes, they do in some respects, but they also have oversight by the committee as to things that might be in a vehicle.
That was approved already in emergency services twice.
In one of the committees, it has been, yes.
Oh,
What I'm saying is,
me get my commissioners.
Is
Mr.
that?
Buckmaster?
Yeah, well,
Call for the question.
We have a call for the question. We do have a motion and a second. We have a call for the question. Would like to vote on the question. All in favor of approving this, please raise your right hand. And this is for the 1,500, correct? This is a motion to approve the 1,500. All opposed? Motion fails. We will continue with discussion. Does anybody have any other thing? Brian, you would ask to be recognized.
I'd just like to say, on a couple of those topics, he is correct. The 1500s, they have upgraded the current vehicles to be much heavier duty with transmission coolers and oil coolers, and they will tow a greater capacity than they have in years past. I think most half tons will have about a 9,800 pound towing capacity, which will certainly cover most anything that Mr. Beatty would probably pull. So I would agree with that. My only concern, and I don't know the answer to this question, so I'm asking whoever can answer, Mr. Ferguson or Mr. Beatty, but in my experience, police pursuit package or special services package that could be used for undercover law enforcement oftentimes incorporates a shorter and lower sport type suspension, which could hamper your ground clearance for off-road stuff. And since your duties, I would imagine, could call you to respond in any type of terrain, whereas a typical sheriff's car is gonna probably stay on hard pavement. Is that part of that package, or would that be a consideration?
I don't have the spec sheet. It may be listed in what Bill has. If it has ground clearance on it, I can't speak to that. I know the one that we have currently, it's just a standard civilian 1,500. It's fairly low to the ground already. You know, it certainly sits lower than my 3/4 ton does.
Here's my question, why do you need the police package on it anyway?
I'll answer that. How many police cars you see pull up and they sit and they run and they run and they run?
He
You gotta
ain't a
see,
police
he
car.
gonna pull up and he's gonna pull up to an ambulance scene. He's gonna get out, it's gonna sit there and run and run and run. And he got a bigger transmission cooler on it, bigger radiator, all the things that goes along with where they'll sit and run without overheating. That's right, bigger alternator.
Which, Chairman, which is also the same on a 2,500 heavy duty. Same bigger radiator, cooling capacity, whole 9 yards.
Just like me, they keep the vehicle he's got, how many miles is on it?
39,000.
And then we buy one just for the rescue to use, and it could be a cheaper version if it's just gonna be used to pull. I don't know why you want a vehicle like he's got. Why not keep it and buy the cheapest 2,500 we can get, it'll be good for the rescue, just used for pull. Why? Like to me, his truck's still good. It's just got 35,000 miles.
The goal was, and the mayor and I discussed this previously before this was brought to committee, that we didn't want to try to draw off 101, that we would rather pull it out of my own fund balance, and the way to do that would be to move my truck down to rescue and replace it with a smaller vehicle that was more appropriate for day-to-day driving. But, I think you're kind of blowing the police package or special service vehicle thing, making it a little bigger than it really is. I know it sounds like it's a big deal or something, it's really not. It includes pre-wiring, so you don't have to run wires. It has some, like, the tail light flashers are already installed. It's got wiring for radios and siren speakers already built into it. So it's got a little different suspension because you run emergency traffic in it. It's got a bigger air breather, a bigger radiator. It's not bulletproof. It doesn't have machine guns that come out of it. I think we're blowing this out of proportion when we're bringing up titles that we're probably not really familiar with and trying to discuss it.
I don't know if we're blowing it out of proportion or not.
Mr. Clarity.
I agree with what Bubba said. If rescue needs a truck, let's send it back and let them buy them a truck and let Mr. Beatty keep the one he's got, and they got 39,000 miles.
Any other discussion? Do I have any motions?
They need the vehicle. Right now, they only rescue, they ain't got no vehicle to pull those heavy trucks, heavy trailers. They need the vehicle now, make the mind up. And make your mind up, let them go ahead and buy the vehicle, rescind this vote y'all just done and redo another one, but they need the vehicle. Can't wait around here another 2 or 3 months, or another 2 or 3 weeks, or whatever, get this figured out.
What we have before us is a budget amendment to let them basically move $38,000 out of their fund balance into this to buy vehicles. The money's there. If they don't spend it on this, they can spend it on something else. We've kicked this around for over 6 months now. We all have some different idea of what they need. And like I tried to hit some of this off by trying to, let's separate the money issue from what we want them to have issue, or badging and all those type of things. So what we have before us is a budget amendment. And I'm gonna put this budget amendment to the full body, whether you vote to recommend it or not. I think that's well within, is that,
I don't think so.
is that allowable? Does it have to go through budget? I mean, we've had many things recommended by committees that weren't recommended that went on to the full body.
I've seen that before this body, that things have gone up without it being, without a positive recommendation, so.
Well, you have a positive recommendation from one committee. I can't do not honor that on 2 separate votes because this one doesn't. Now, we can talk about it more next Monday night, but I'm telling you, it will be on the agenda. Just watch.
My comment to that would be, why when committees vote yes or no for something, or yes, for example, what is our purpose in?
Recommendation.
But you
So
waste my
we can-
time sitting here. Let me finish, Chairman. If a committee votes on something to move it on to us, and we're gonna do what we wanna do anyway, based on the chair's opinion, why are you wasting my time being here to bring up a vote? Seriously, what are we
Because
for?
you had another committee that voted to send it to the full
I get that. I'm on that committee also.
two separate occasions.
Right, I'm on that committee also, I know what happened.
That's the why.
Okay, but now new information's come out, and so that information was voted on tonight, and you're gonna bypass and not take recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee and do your own thing, so to speak, and go ahead and put it in front of the commission.
No, that's not what I said. I said it would be, this budget amendment would be on the agenda.
And duly noted, I think you're out of order on that, sir, but carry on.
If I am, then we won't do it. My reasoning being that it was approved by one committee, and we do
But that's why we have checks and
consider things
balances.
that are disapproved.
We have
to
checks and balances. This committee is a check and balance. New information has come to light. And I agree with Bubba over there saying that, why not just buy Rescue Squad 1 with the money?
That's fine. Make a motion.
I'll make a motion by rescue squad and truck.
And I second.
Okay, this is the budget. You're doing. You go ahead, Kevin.
On the budget finance committee, you're correct, the only issue you've got here in front of you today is whether or not you're going to fund balance draw from 118. It's not a discussion related to what it is, and that's whether or not it's approved budget. It's that simple. It's that simple. You can send it up to the full commission if you want to without a positive recommendation. And if you want to have an open floor discussion there and hash that out in front of the 20 commissioners, have at it. Now, that's one way to. But from what I've heard today, you've got a positive recommendation on this from the Emergency Services Committee. And I understand new information's come out. And I heard what said this is a check and balance, this is a budget and finance committee to deal with money. You can either approve it or not approve it, one or the other. That's where you go.
I think we beat this horse enough. I mean, it's been 6 months, like you said, and it's been approved by the Emergency Services Committee, and the truck is needed. I think it's time we put it to rest and we haven't questioned, I don't remember us questioning the purchase of any other vehicle to this extent. If anyone can refresh my memory on that, I would be happy to hear it, but I can't remember any other vehicle purchase that has gone into such debate as this one. So I make a motion to reconsider the purchase.
What was your motion?
To buy a rescue and truck. and let Mr.
To
Bailey-
appropriate the funds for them to buy that truck? And you're gonna specify what? The model and options and color
It
and
was the same.
tire
same-
size and
The
wheel
same
coverage?
truck that we made the motion to buy out of the steering committee. 3/4 ton white decal truck for
Will this come out of rescue money or come out of EMS money?
Rescue would be a one of
Chairman, if we use the same analogy you used, steering committee did not recommend this truck, but that wasn't overruled. You went to emergency services, but now you want to go with that committee and overrule this committee. So why, when emergency services approved the truck that was opposite of what the steering committee wanted, the same argument wasn't put forth by the chairman?
What is the stated purpose of the steering committee to do?
To decide what committee's legislation needs to go to or whether it's ready to go to the full body. And it was referred back to the emergency services.
And stipulations will include.
I just have a question. Are we just here tonight to approve or disapprove of transferring this
Yes.
money?
That's
Or
all
are
we
we
are.
supposed to be
That's it.
taking out the truck?
We are supposed to be voting on a budget amendment to allow them to move $38,000 of their fund balance out of medical service vehicles.
And
For them
then
to
who
purchase
decides
truck.
what truck they're getting?
Typically, the department head, in conjunction with the mayor. That's the way it's always been handled in times past. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. I don't think we have ever spent that much dictating what to buy. Mr. Ferguson?
Yeah, to reiterate what I said earlier tonight when I first started talking about this issue, I do think it's time for us to find a vehicle. It's just a matter of how do we do this and what type of oversight we have. And I've learned some things this week that I was unaware of. I was unaware of to what depths could a governing body go to be critical of a purchase of a product. And I think Ms. Jones is right, and we haven't done that in the past. However, I think in light of some of the things that we now know, we're still trying to do as a good steward to the county's money. We may have found some things that might save us some money. So, but I still want to say the same thing. I think it's time for us to get a truck, and I think Mr. Gregory is correct as to how we go about it.
Well, does it need to go back to emergency services? For them to say, to buy the 2,500? Or, I mean, I'm kind of lost here. I really am. Somebody's gonna have to help me.
I'm gonna have to pull the minutes of what the emergency services committee did, what they approved. Apparently it's gone to steering committee, and we've done that before, so I've got to see what they've done, and as long as they have seen that, it's been a passage on a particular vehicle at some point, but it's not being funded tonight. So it's approved, made a recommendation to approve a particular vehicle to go to county commission, but we've not made a approved fund balance draw from the 118. That's what I've heard. Am I right?
That's where we're at. That's
Well,
my
my
understanding.
question was, if you do it the way Gary and Bubba's talked about, where's the money coming from?
Comes from the 101.
Hmm?
It'll be a 101 fund balance
That's
draw.
what I'm thinking. That's a hit on 101 that we don't have to give.
Could that be transferred later or out of another, the other
I
fund?
keep thinking someone's gonna make a motion to table this till next month, or to postpone the vote on it till next month, so that we can hash this out and bring it back up. Since we're already 15 minutes into our next meeting. But,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
you're asking for it to be tabled by laws, or you can't table it unless you bring it back up the
to
same
not, I
night.
said postpone.
All right, you will not do that, but you can't table it.
When I was on this meeting, I can't make my notes, what I think. This chairman is great.
Let's look at it from another standpoint, guys. The ambulance department's got the money. Why should we bicker over whether rescue gets a truck or they get a truck? They're getting a truck, it's got 30-some thousand miles on it. Several of you sat there and said they need a truck. It's been going on 6 months. We need to support this amendment right here. You may not be completely satisfied with it, you may never be. We need to get this behind us and go on. It don't need to come out of World War, guys.
Mr. Walsh.
Make a motion to postpone the vote and or send it back to emergency service with other options.
A motion to postpone the vote and send it back to emergency services for a better definition.
Let me clarify. Postpone further discussion. The vote's already been taken.
Okay. Do you have a second? Second, Mr. Clary. You have a second? All in favor of this motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no.
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 2 noes. Motion carries. Move on with our other business. Okay, we're back to interfund transfers. These are all internal transfers. The first one, 101, is 2020-10106, is the 2017 tobacco grant funding. It is to move some funds from that reserve fund account to purchase some more tobacco cessation benches to put around the county. It's for $12,626.45. There is another 101 General Services, 2020-10107, Economic Development. This was to reimburse some registration fees and travel expenses for some people attending a economic development conference, the Governor's Economic Development Conference, of $750. There's another 101 General Services for rescue equipment. They sold a old rescue squad vehicle, and they're wanting to move the money from the sale of that vehicle into other equipment so they can purchase more rescue equipment. There's also one in the 111 Urban Services Fund, 2020-11101 Streetscape Grant, $644,572. We didn't show the full amount in the budget for the Streetscape grant. This will be reimbursed, but we have to pay it out, and then the state will reimburse us for it. General Purpose School Fund, UT Trust mini grant, and they're moving those funds from that grant into the Books and Lights program for student activities. Is that all of them, Amy?
I believe so.
Okay. I think we can handle these all together, or if somebody would like to pull any of them specifically, just let me know. Walsh?
Make a motion to approve all of them together.
Have a motion to approve all the interfund transfers. Mr. Harris makes second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is done. I think that concludes. Is any other business needs to come before the committee? Mr. Walsh?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Probably need to bring that statement in here for everybody, need to get that done by the end of the year, might want to bring it up in work session, that one with the state. Everybody needs to have it done.
Statement, your
Statement, you got to do with state.
okay. Let's take about 2 minutes and then we'll start our work session.
Yeah.
sure you don't fire chief.